Whoa! Look at that!
There's a big fish.
Oh my God!
To some, winter means a retreat indoors, while for many active northerners, snow and ice is just a great excuse to get out and go ice fishing. All it takes is a little sense of adventure, a little wardrobe adjustment, and some gear swapping, and hey, we're ready to go.
Well, here we go. The first morning of our Green Bay Whitefish expedition. And it's promising to be a doozy. It's supposed to rain all day today, change tonight to snow, snow 5 to 8 inches tomorrow, turn into blizzard conditions, be 7 below the third morning. How's that for a starter?
So today I thought it'd be a good opportunity to point out one destination and a species of fish that many ice anglers probably haven't given much thought, and that's Lake Whitefish. Last winter, with my brand new Polaris Ranger XP EPS ice rig, I traveled to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin to fish on Green Bay. A sub-basin of Lake Michigan, Green Bay is about 120 miles long and ranges anywhere from 10 to 20 miles wide. Although whitefish in Green Bay are relatively abundant, they're really not targeted by all that many recreational anglers. Whitefish are members of the trout salmonoid family and are underappreciated as a sport fish. But in my considered opinion, they're really scrappy fighters and can often be caught in great numbers. Now, if you're not familiar with Green Bay, the fastest way to get into the action is to hire a local guide such as Bret of Alexander Sport Fishing.
One thing here on Green Bay is this whitefish bite is actually a new phenomenon that's been going on now. It started about 4 years ago. What happened is they used to be a real deep water fisher, always in the Great Lakes and Lake Michigan and the Bay of Green Bay, but they fed very deep on biomass and their food source was depleted. They changed their feeding patterns. The fish had gotten a little bit smaller. They're eating gobies and bloodworms, but we're able to catch them ice fishing now, which is pretty cool.
Also joining us today is Tony Aloia, National Sales Manager for Eskimo, the makers of the best portable ice fishing shelters and power ice augers available. Besides that, he's also a guy who thoroughly loves ice fishing for any kind of fish through a 10-inch hole.
This might be a decent one. Right off the bottom. The whitefish are definitely a finesse setup. We were out there and Bret showed us kind of how the jigging method should be. And it's really kind of a smooth rocking motion where you're really right on bottom. And you really kind of have to work the fish and feel carefully. We were using the 36-inch light St. Croix. They had plenty of backbone to get those 3 and 4 pound whitefish in, but they had a sensitive enough tip that even on those light bites we could kind of feel them.
I have a big whitefish on.
See him coming up.
The lake whitefish are in the salmon and trout family, so they're a soft rayed fish, they're a soft flesh fish. They are very abundant, at least at this time, in the Great Lakes and in Lake Michigan, Lake Huron, Superior. They can get to a fairly large size, up to upwards of upper 20-inch range. However, a lot of those dynamics have changed in the Great Lakes, especially in Lake Michigan over time.
Ooh, nice one. Good eater.
Yes, there.
Pretty hot and heavy action here. It's one right after another so far. We released 3 of them and we've been sitting down for maybe 5-10 minutes here. Got 2 on the ice and this feels like a keeper. This one we'll keep and eat. He's right at the cutoff there of where I keep them.
This is a rig that Bret developed out here just for fishing the whitefish. Little tiny hooks, they're slider hooks. They slide on the line, you put swivels in between. You can see these things slide back and forth here on the line. And then I've got a spoon on the bottom, of which I'm going to put a waxworm on that too. I'm not necessarily sure why, other than it can't hurt.
The average size on Green Bay I would say is right around 1.5 pounds, 17 to 18 inches. And we will catch them up to the 5-6 pound range. Years ago, when the fish were in deep water feeding on biomass, they were a lot bigger. Then you'd see a lot of fish up in the 7, 8, 9 pound range. But they totally changed their feeding habits from eating biomass to now eating bloodworms and gobies that are their main diet that they're eating. But their size decreased dramatically because of what they're eating. But it's still a great size fish and they're awesome fighters. They put up a great fight.
Continuing now out on Green Bay near the town of Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin, After having to leave due to the onslaught of a winter snowstorm, a bad one, it made conditions simply too difficult to get out. Although I wasn't able to myself, Nate Berg of my staff went back to finish the story a few weeks later.
Bring it.
Because of its exceptional flavor, convenient size, and habit of schooling, whitefish have long been a mainstay for commercial fishermen in the Great Lakes. In Wisconsin, they're caught mostly by commercial fishermen, who harvest about 2.8 million pounds annually in the waters of Green Bay and Lake Michigan. Unlike its largemouth trout or salmon cousins, the lake whitefish has a small, extremely delicate mouth, so it's confined to dining on insects, freshwater shrimp, small fish, bloodworms, fish eggs, and bottom organisms. Consequently, that means at times feeding takes place on or near the bottom.
There's one. Now, do you got to play these pretty soft?
Yeah, you wanna go slow with them because they got a softer mouth, and if you pull too hard, you'll rip them hooks right out.
I don't think he's much more than 2 pounds, or not. Wow, did he fight?
There's so many different techniques that I figured out for the whitefish. In the mornings, I notice a lot in the mornings and the evenings, they like the spoons worked hard. And my theory is because they're up in the rocks and the zebra mussels then, and they're eating mainly gobies. So you'll see me a lot in the mornings where I'm laddering the spoon and working it pretty quick. And then all of a sudden, as soon as that bite dies out, they usually go down in there on the sand edges in like that 70-foot range. And when they do that, and then it's tiny little finesse hops. And what I like to do is I'll actually take the tip of my rod and kind of roll it in a fast little circle where you're just digging that spoon on the bottom, and that spoon is creating actually a little dust cloud on the bottom. And those fish, my theory again is those fish see that dust cloud and they think the bloodworms are coming out of the sand, out of their cocoons, and they come to investigate, and then they see that little slider hook with the waxworm, and they can't resist that.
Tony strikes. Doing a little bit of a head shake. I was waiting until the big ones came in.
That's looking like a pretty nice one too.
Yeah, it's fighting out nice.
Hook number one. Ooh, that's a nice one. There you go. That's a dandy there.
That's a real nice fish.
About what, 3 pounds?
3-pounder, 3 1/4.
To me, the most important tool to the whitefish fishing was the fishing rod. What we were using was the St. Croix Premier Ice 36-inch light ice fishing rod. And it had a very, very light tip. Even in 60, 70 feet of water, you could feel the bite, and you'd see the rod tip move when you were dead sticking it. There he is.
Big one?
That one was on the pause. He seems to be all right. I'm still trying to learn how these things fight, you know?
Yeah. You gonna handle it?
No, I'm good.
Looks like he's fighting you pretty good.
Yeah, that one came on a pause there. No, he's not much. I believe we'll be letting him go.
Right off the bottom. Just don't think it's a big one. That one kind of hit when I paused the work. The Eskimo line of augers we've been building ice augers since 1960. The Eskimo augers has a full line. We go from a 33cc Stingray all the way up to a 71cc Shark. EPA actually rated that as the most powerful ice auger that's sold in America. That Shark has so much power with the 71cc. We were really working to find these fish all weekend and stay on top of those schools. And the Shark really had the power to cut quick, go through, and especially with this tough shelf ice, our quantum blades on those Sharks really tear right through that ice.
There's one. He's hooked good. He's not very big. Oh, what do you know? Cookie cutter for me.
I like these rods. Smooth.
That looks like a good one, Bret. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know Bret as a fisherman, a person, but also his knowledge on whitefish. It was a lot of fun learning about a new fish that I really didn't know much about.
Burping up a lot of air, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, look at there. That's probably the big one of the day right there. At number 30, guess who's buying lunch?
Thick.
He caught the last one.
Yep, last one on the lake, you gotta buy lunch.
Load up our harvest into the Yeti and go walleye fishing. How's that sound?
Sounds like a plan to me.
Continuing now on today's Good Fishing, Nate Berg of our staff loves anything and everything to do with ice fishing and open water panfish. He's just one of those absolute fishaholics who can't get enough. And last June, he and friend Bob O'Brien hit the back roads of Minnesota in search of an easy-to-find yet off-the-beaten-path lake, hoping to pile into a bunch of bull bluegills.
It is going to be a hot, sultry summer day, Bob, and I really like that when it comes to bluegills.
It's like yesterday.
Yeah. The lake Bob and I were fishing in was about a 1,000-acre lake in between Brainerd and Grand Rapids. The Minnesota DNR has a great website. It's a lake finder. If you do your research, you can find a bunch of lakes, maybe even this lake, on your own. Bob, the crawlers are up here in the Yeti, if you want one.
Sounds good.
We got them on ice, so they will be nice and cold. One of the things that I look for, and it seems to help when it comes to looking for these bigger bluegills, a little bit of a stained water all the way to a tannin stained water. It seems like the lakes have better nutrients, better forage, better everything. Another thing that I look for are fairly deep basin areas, 25 to 50 feet. Whenever you have these deep basin muddy areas, you'll have oodles of food, from mayfly larvae to bloodworms to fish fly larvae, dragonfly larvae, whatever. And that seems to help a ton. That's what we're looking for. Yeah, he's still a little short, but not bad. I like using jig heads once in a while, but a lot of times them hooks are either too big or too short, you know? So I like using the number 6 Aberdeen. I just throw a split shot right by the hook, and then it acts like a jig, and that'll also fall all the way down through. You'll be in direct contact with your hook at all times. There's one, Bob, right here. Oh, he's an all right one. Still got a ways to go to get to them big ones. Right up on the top of this point. 13 feet of water. There he is.
Little.
Why don't we try anchoring, Bob?
That's fine. That's fine.
Try to get some shade going underneath the boat and see if we can't draw them in that way. With bluegills, there's one more thing you can do with an anchor. They're feeding on bugs and stuff on the bottom, bugs, worms, whatever, down on the bottom. Sometimes what I do is I just simply lift up the anchor and pound the bottom. Bluegills are curious. They'll come to the noise, and then they'll see that dust cloud down there. Next thing you know, they're feeding there, and you're catching all kinds of fish. Another thing that happens when you anchor is the bluegills use your boat for shade. A lot of times, the big ones will chase away the little ones. You won't even have to worry about any little ones, which is nice. Oh, now that is a
nice
bluegill.
fish.
That little boat shade trick is a really good one to remember. Oh, Bob.
You get one finally?
Yeah. Yep, there he is.
Yeah, that's a nice one. I'm watching you instead of my bobber.
They're so pretty. There's something wrong with you if you don't like catching these.
Yeah.
You know? And it's such a simple technique. I think too many times people overthink bluegills, you know?
Yeah.
I really do. There you go, Bob. Oh, good one too. They have so much power for their size. It is so fun. Here, I got a bite. Oh,
He's pretty.
look at that.
Pretty.
That's a 3/4 pound bluegill right there. That's a beautiful fish.
I'm glad it was on this pole though.
Speaking of which, I got one.
The twin?
I hope so. Oh yeah, it's
There
a
you
twin.
go, yeah.
Look at that. Bob, I think I got you beat.
You might have. I'm gonna go hide mine so you don't know.
Hold on, let's see the difference here. That one there is getting closer to a pound now. I think I dwarfed you.
I don't know.
All it takes is a little bit of research,
Yeah.
and you can find lakes that produce bluegills like this all over the place in Minnesota.
A lot of pretty colors.
I think that'll be enough for us for supper, huh?
Yeah.
The Great Taste from Chris's Kitchen, brought to you by the Great Taste of Johnsonville Sausage.
Hi everyone, and thanks for joining me today for another quick recipe for those of us who love to eat the fish we catch. Today you're all really going to want to pay attention because easy baked bluegills are just out of this world, and one I know you're all going to want to try. So let's begin, okay? So I'm going to just start with a little bit of olive oil and pouring it into a small baking dish. And then what I'm going to do is take my tomato paste and mix it with my leftover olive oil. Now this is like a little Italian spice to this. But we're just going to mix this up as good as you can. Add oregano and some garlic powder and salt and pepper to taste. And we're just going to mix this up good. And that's our sauce that's going to go over our bluegills. And I'm just going to simply lay my bluegill fillets down. And make sure the olive oil is on all of your fillets. And then I'm going to take my sauce and pour that right over the top. And just make sure you get it on all of the fillets. Now I'm going to just simply add onions, green peppers, and my favorite part of this whole recipe, green olives. Just gives it a nice bite to it, a little zest, and a little bit more Italian. Now I've preheated my oven to 350 degrees. I'm gonna just put it into the oven till the fish flakes and the onions are nice and tender. And your recipe is done and you're ready to feed your family. And I've just boiled up some fettuccine noodles. And what I'm gonna simply do is just put it right over the top. See, easy baked bluegills, yet another delicious celebration of a natural harvest reserved only for those of us who love the fish. I'm Chris Winkelman.
Okay, a final few reflections on the whitefish trips we made to Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin and Green Bay. Whitefish are known for their excellent taste and normally supplied to restaurants from commercial fishermen. But due to their adaptation to finding food sources in shallower water, they've recently shown up on the winter angler's radar in Green Bay. And as you've clearly seen on today's show, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to hit the ice and catch a bunch and have a blast. To get into the thick of the action, all you really need is a guide like Bret of Alexander Sport Fishing Guide Service. Throughout the year, he and his team of 7 guides have excellent knowledge of Lake Michigan, Green Bay, and the Fox and Menominee rivers. So I highly recommend you get a hold of them. And if you don't have the necessary equipment, don't worry about it. Bret can supply all of the latest fishing gear you'll need. Thanks also to Beach Harbor Resort in Sturgeon Bay for putting us up. Accommodations are affordable and clean, and the food is terrific, and the staff is extremely friendly. Here at our company, we look at what we do as a service to you, our viewers. And some of that service is finding great spots where you can go fishing. In this case, Green Bay is quickly accessible to many of you in the Midwest. Whitefish are extremely fun to catch, and Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin is always a fantastic place to visit, winter or summer. So there you have it, a where-to and a who-to for all of you to take advantage of. I'm Babe Winkelman. Thanks so much for joining us today, and until next time, everybody, hey, good fishing.